Supreme Court, let me go into Moore versus Harper. So Moore versus Harper is this. It's a case out of North Carolina. And what happened is the North Carolina legislature is fervently right-wing Republican, and that happened after what was known as Operation Red Map in 2010, when a number of Republican operatives figured out that they could invest in taking over state legislatures, and then they would be in charge of redistricting after the census of 2010, and that would give them control over a number of state legislatures. They did that and it worked. They got the legislatures of North Carolina, of course, but also Kansas and Wisconsin and perhaps Michigan. I don't remember now. It's been a while. They got a number of state legislatures, and that's actually fairly widely available. So if anybody wants to check, just look up Operation Red Map, all one word, all capital letters. It stood for Republican Redistricting Majority Project. Anyway, so what this extreme North Carolina legislature did is it gerrymandered the state of North Carolina so extraordinarily along political lines that the Georgia Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. It's really in violation of our Constitution. And they left it in place, as have a couple of states, and argued that the Constitution gives the legislature alone the power to oversee elections, oversee the holding of federal elections. All right, so the Congress. What that means is that the legislature can do whatever it wants, according to this doctrine, the independent state legislature doctrine, that they can do whatever they want, and they cannot be checked either by the state courts or by the state constitution. They can do whatever they want. This is bonkers, first of all. It started to be discussed in a really minor way during the Bush v. Gore decision of 2000, in which one of the justices, I don't remember now which one, said, hey, maybe this is okay to let the state legislatures decide. It has become a really hot issue now because in places like North Carolina, the state would not be solidly red, and it certainly would not have the extreme red majority, Republican majority that it does now, if they weren't rigging the system. And the Supreme Court has said that the federal courts can't oversee gerrymandering. So the idea then would be, of course, that the state courts can, but the independent state legislature doctrine says the state courts can't oversee it either. So long as you get yourself elected to the state legislature, your word is gold and you can do anything you want. But here's the kicker. The state legislature also decides who can vote and how they can vote. So this makes zero sense if, in fact, you're trying to guarantee a democratic form of government, a Republican form of small r Republican form of government. It only makes sense if you're trying to enshrine a minority in power. And this is precisely what happened before the Civil War with the idea of South Carolina being able to. South Carolina was the only state that still chose its electors by the legislature, and they, of course, were the ones who organized the Confederacy. It is a bonkers idea, but there is reason to believe that this Supreme Court will go along with it. Now, why does this matter in this moment? It matters in this moment because if the independent state legislature doctrine had been in place in 2020, in the last presidential election, Donald Trump would now be in the White House, because the whole point, if you remember, and I hope this isn't too much of a leap, the whole point of those fake electors that the Trump campaign tried to put in place in a number of states where they believed they wanted to believe they had won, even though they hadn't won, like Georgia, for example, and other states as well, Pennsylvania. The whole point of those fake electors was to say the electors get to, the legislatures can do whatever they want. And the Trump campaign actually said to a number of those people who made up the false slates, you have the right to do this under the Constitution. They don't. And the reason that the independent state legislature doctrine is so desperately dangerous is because if the Supreme Court says that's that's fair going forward, basically the Republicans have gamed the system and the Democrats can't win again. And mind you, if the Democrats had done it, it would have been the same the other direction, although this current Democratic Party would not have done that. Remember, the parties change a lot over time, and right now the Republican Party is a fervently anti-democratic party, and the Democrats are actually a very pro-democratic party.